Welcome back. This is not our podcast, this is our forecast. See what I did there? That's a play on words. Yes, so today we have a really fun cocktail we're going to show you. I'm really excited to do this and I hope you try it at home. I'll be honest, in the catering business, this cocktail is a hard sell on paper. Boyan developed this cocktail, and when we show it on paper on a menu to someone, they're like, I don't think so. But then when we let them taste it in person, everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, that's so unique, I can't believe that. I need that at my party. So that's why we're doing this video today, is because it's so fun. We also have a special treat today. We have a guest with us from Beehive Distillery. They are one of our favorite partners that we work with. Being local here that's one of our favorite things, both at Culinary Crafts and in the people who are hosting us today at the bar, at the tasting room. In both of those operations, I like to do this dynamic where rather than having all of the big famous brands that you're familiar with, all of the big national and international brands, and then having one or two token locals, I like to flip that on its head. And I like to have like 80% or more of the spirits that we offer be the locals that are available. And then have one or two of those big international well-known mainstream brands just there for those who need it. So Beehive is one of our favorites. They've been around for a long time. I was at the release of the very first time of this, where the barrel-aged gin, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys were one of the first people to ever do that.
Yeah.
So I'll turn the time over to you to let you talk about your brand a little bit and tell us a little bit about your operation before we jump into Boyan's cocktail.
Perfect. So I'm Chris from Beehive Distilling, one of the three partners. I pretty much handle all the production, all the distilling, manage the whole back of the house as far as everything goes with that. Yeah, we started up in 2013, got all of our licensing in place for 2014. January 1 of 2014 is when we started distilling. We started with gin because just a little about our backgrounds. We're two ex-commercial photographers and a branding, design, marketing guy. And starting up, you've got to have something to sell. At least we did, because we didn't have just a ton of money to sell them. So you have to do white spirit, or you've got to buy a brown spirit and pretend like you make it, which we didn't want to do either. We picked gin just because there was nobody else doing gin that was local, and it was a spirit you can be creative with. Now, your gin profiles are from like huge profiles. As long as there's a juniper berry in it, it's considered gin. So you can get something super lemony, super citrusy, rosy, floral, junipery. Like you can be all over the place. So it was just a cool spirit that we could be creative with and like actually come up with something new. And when we started, we kept getting all the questions like, well, does it taste like Bombay or does it taste like Tanqueray? It's like, well, no, because there's already a Bombay and a Tanqueray. Like
we made something.
We want to make something
different.
Yeah. So we've since transitioned into having a vodka. We do a barrel-aged gin. We do a bourbon. We do a rum. We do a rye, and all those are made in-house. So it's been a good growth.
And that's how I became a fan of Beehive initially, is because gin is my favorite spirit. It's light, it's crisp, refreshing. A gin and tonic and a Negroni, those are like my go-to cocktails. This barrel-aged one in a Negroni is quite something special. But for today's cocktail, we are going to use the Beehive Vodka. Now, vodka technically is supposed to be odorless and flavorless, and it's like the opposite of a gin. There's not a lot going on there. You don't have all these different directions you take it. There's not all these layers and flavors. But that's where Boyan has come in, and he's taken this very clean, simple spirit, and he's going to infuse it with some layers after the distillation.
Well, and just to add to that, like the gin is essentially flavored vodka.
Right, correct.
We start with 190 proof, corn ethanol, clean, just good spirit. And then, the art and the skill and the fun comes with, putting your paint on the canvas. And that's essentially what you're doing, just different than what I did.
Yeah, exactly. I love using vodka in this recipe because vodka, like we said, is a neutral spirit without not much of a flavor. But in this case, I'm making a martini actually, which is a play on a classic dirty vodka martini. I'm just going to infuse vodka that I love, which is local Beehive vodka, with some granola blue cheese crumbs. And I'm going to infuse that and let it sit overnight in a fridge. and I'm gonna make a nice delicious martini out of it. Instead of using classic dry vermouth, my second ingredient in this drink will be a Cocchi Americano, which is aromatized fortified wine, which comes from Italy, aperitivo wine, which will bring those herbal, spicy, dry notes to it, and kind of like cut the pungent of the blue cheese in it. And my final ingredient will be just olive juice, which will keep up with the traditional recipe of a dirty vodka martini.
So this process is not dissimilar from some of the other processes you've seen us educate people on recently, whether we're doing fat washing or we're doing some sort of infusion, but this time we're using something that you might not expect. So like infusing lemons into your vodka is not that surprising. Infusing cherries into your whiskey is not that surprising. Even I think doing the bacon fat into a whiskey is a little bit more off the beaten path, but still not quite as surprising to some people as this one. When we soak the vodka with blue cheese, it's just something not a lot of people are expecting and they've not heard of it before. And again, that's why it's a little bit of a hard sell on paper. They're not sure they're gonna like it. They're not sure if there's blue cheese gonna be floating in the drink or not. But all we do is we soak the vodka with this blue cheese for a day or two and then strain it back out. But then the vodka has this rich, savory, creamy, slightly funky layer, and it makes for a lovely martini.
And it makes a perfect match for the fortified wine, which is very similar to vermouth, but it brings more complexity to a drink. It has those herbal parts, it has those dryness, spiciness, and kind of even sweet notes on the very back palate. And as I said, we're gonna cut that with some olive juice. So if you gentlemen are ready, I'm gonna jump right into it.
Yeah, jump right in.
I'm gonna jump into like process of me mixing and infusing actually vodka with blue cheese. Today I'm using around like 16 ounces glass jar, and I'm gonna fill that up with some blue cheese crumbs, like around a quarter of that glass. And I usually like using 8:1 kind of like ratio, 8 parts of vodka with 1/4 of blue cheese. And I usually let that sit overnight in a fridge, and then I strain it through a coffee filter in order to make it clear and remove all that unnecessary kind of like pungent crumbs to it, which we don't want to have that end up in a final product.
And blue cheese is a little bit of a polarizing ingredient. I get that. You know, some people love blue cheese, some people hate blue cheese. One of the cool things about this sort of process is you can kind of control how potent that blue cheese comes through two different ways. One is by selecting the blue cheese. And so if you are worried about like how strong the blue cheese flavor is going to be in your final drink, just choose a milder blue cheese, like a really mild young Gorgonzola will work really, really well. If you love blue cheese, just pick your favorite one and dive into the deep end. But the other way that you can control like how potent the blue cheese comes through is just simply by the ratio. And so, you know, Boyan, his ratio here we're doing, but if you wanted to like kind of just like dip your toe into it, you could dial that ratio back and just see. And I actually think that that's something that a lot of people sometimes get surprised with. They think they don't like blue cheese, but when they try it with a mild blue cheese, just warm and melted, or when they try it subtle in a drink like this or something like that, suddenly they realize like, oh, I do like this. And then they start to acquire a taste for it. And then, you know, 2 or 3 years down the road, they want to drink the strongest, funkiest, craziest French blue cheese that's out there. But you can control the flavors a lot with this.
And I'd imagine too, if you actually macerate it too long and you get too much flavor in there, you could just like back dilute it with a little more,
neutral spirit to it. It depends how strong you want that blue cheese to taste in your martini, definitely. The next step would be actually having this jar probably like shaken a little bit in order to like solidify and infuse these flavors together. And as I said, I would leave this in a fridge overnight, like around 8 to 10 hours. That's my preference on it. And then I'm gonna strain it to a coffee filter, and we can jump into a martini if you guys are ready for it. Alrighty. So we're gonna let this rest for a minute. I already have one infused jar and one that I have already pre-strained to a coffee filter. And this is what we'll be using in order to make our blue cheese infused martini today.
So one of the things I love about this cocktail, in particular in this recipe that Boyan has come up with, is that for me, normally when I drink a cocktail, it's before dinner. And I have a gin and tonic, I have a Negroni, I have a martini, something before dinner. But when we get into the food, I usually switch over to wine, and I love wine pairings. That's my favorite thing in the world. But in this golden age of the cocktail and this revival of craft cocktails and this elevation of really cool cocktails, cocktails that pair with food can be a lot of fun, and to take the place of a wine pairing with certain courses along the meal is really, really fun. And this is one of those. And so with the right sandwich on a summer day, this is a treat.
Alrighty, so my recipe will consist of 2 ounces of blue cheese infused vodka. So I'm making 3 martinis for all 3 of us today to go ahead and try those delicious creations. We're gonna use 2 ounces for one. Second, I'll use a second shaker for my third pour. So 2 ounces of blue cheese vodka, which will follow up with just a 3/4 of an ounce of Cocchi Americano, which is again a fortified wine, comes from Italy, which has those spicy citrus and dry notes, which will cut the saltiness of the blue cheese in this drink.
If you're not familiar with this product, you really should stop by the store and pick it up. This was not available in Utah for the longest time. And the closest thing we could find is Lillet Blanc out of France, which is very similar. And Lillet is lovely as well, it has its own uses. But the Cocchi is a little more complex and has a few more layers than the Lillet has. And so this is a wonderful product you should stop and try. In fact, like if you're familiar with the James Bond stories, and the first cocktail, the first martini he ever made in the first book is the Vesper Martini. And he asked for Lillet Blanc, but the formula of Lillet Blanc back then was different, and it's lost and it's gone now. And by all accounts, Cocchi today out of Italy is closer to the original Lillet Blanc. And so if you want to make James Bond's original cocktail, this is what you need. And now that it's available in the Utah stores as a regularly stocked item, we're really fortunate.
You guys should go and check it out. My third ingredient is olive juice, and I use a 3/4 of an ounce in that as well, because I'm making 3 drinks today. It's another shot of that. We're gonna add some ice in both of these shakers, and we're gonna shake them really hard between 10 and 15 seconds.
And oftentimes when we're making a martini, the question is always, do you shake or do you stir? And
my preference in this case is shaking, because I have a blue cheese infused vodka and saltiness, so I'm gonna cut that with a nice hard shake rather than stirring it. In general, I love stirring gin martinis and shaking vodka martinis, because while stirring the gin, you get releasing those aromas, those beautiful botanicals, those floral and spicy parts, and while shaking a neutral spirit like vodka usually takes the best harsh and keeping that neutral kind of like base. All right.
For me, when I'm trying to decide if I shake or stir a cocktail, I'm always thinking about what do I want the final drink to look like in the glass. And stirring it will definitely leave it a little bit more crystal clear, and shaking it will give it a look. But with this one, where we've already taken on a touch of opaqueness and a touch of tinge of color from the blue cheese, it doesn't hurt to shake it, and it gives it a little bit of extra texture and mouthfeel. So shaking it works well. A separate tip, although this is not the martini we're making today, I find that like a gin martini should be stirred, just like Boyan said, but most places I go, understir it. When you're shaking it, you get so much chill and so much dilution really quick. And so you don't need to shake it forever. But when you're stirring it, to get the right chill and the right dilution, you need to stir it a little bit longer than what I find most bars and restaurants do, and what most home mixologists are doing. So the next time you make a gin martini, try and stir it for at least 60 seconds and see what that does. Okay.
I'm fine straining the cocktail, because even though I like it really cold, I just don't want those like chunks of ice to be in my mouth. So I'm fine straining in order to have a nice and silky texture of a martini. So we have 3 martinis over here which are already strained, and I'm just gonna finish there with blue cheese, all the garnish as it should be, right?
Yes.
And here we go. This is our final product. A nice, beautiful blue cheese martinis.
Blue cheese martini with a locally made spirit.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Oh my gosh.
Tastes blue cheesy. It's definitely savory.
Very savory.
I think a lot of people, like you're talking about when they see it on the menu, people struggle with savory cocktails.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets, like the sweeter cocktails or just the boozy cocktails. But when you get it and it's got like a deep savory flavor to it, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And I think people have to warm up to it.
What I love about this martini is just like that I do get those savory, salty notes from the blue cheese, but as well I do get a herbal component which comes from Cocchi, and that olive juice kind of cuts right through it and makes it a really nice balanced drink, like beautiful pre-dinner drink, pre-dinner martini.
Yeah, I mean, this drink definitely goes on a ride as it's in my palate. The starts off kind of with that Cocchi hitting me early. The blue cheese peaks right in the middle,
yeah.
And then it finishes very clean and herbal, which is, again, this is a perfect cocktail to pair with food and to enjoy with food.
Love it.
And I agree. There are a lot of people who, this is not the sort of cocktail that you're familiar with. This is different. But when you try it, especially if you try it with an open mind, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And I would even go so far as to say, even if you don't love it on your first try, keep exploring these types of drinks and these types of cocktails. Sometimes I hear this expression like, that's an acquired taste. And they say it like derisively, like things that are an acquired taste aren't really good. Only people who are really, really crazy learn what good is.
You gotta learn.
But I think there's actually something really, really beautiful in an acquired taste, because the more things that you learn to love, the bigger your world gets. And how cool is it if everywhere you go, everything tastes delicious, right?
That was beautiful.
Really exciting.
Makes going out easy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan, for describing that in such a beautiful way. And thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.